What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on the channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, guys, when it rains, it pours. We have yet another proposal, but this is an interesting one. It is from the Peakmonsters team, so if you're familiar with Peakmonsters, the third-party app, and Jarvie, it is to offer some competition for finishing of the SPS chain and the validator development. So I'm not going to read this whole thing to you. That's a pretty cool dragon right there. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but just want to cover some of the main points and then, of course, give my thoughts at the end. So we believe the community would benefit from competitive pricing for finishing the validator software. Excuse me. I couldn't agree more. Likely there are multiple options to get it done, but the DAO community should have options, and we are throwing our hat in the ring. This is actually something our team had considered offering to do many months ago, but it was indicated at the time that the software was almost ready to go, and so we stopped pursuing it. But seeing that the recent proposal indicates 12 more months of work, we have renewed our interest. So they talk about themselves, Peakmonsters. Again, if you're not familiar with Peakmonsters, I don't want to bore people with it here. Definitely go check them out. They make your life so much easier in terms of using any and everything when it comes to Splinterlands. They've been awesome about integrating all of the new features that have popped up, and they're usually like ahead of the game sometimes, right? They're like, as soon as the team launches something, they're there with it, offering and implementing a way to do it easier and smoother and more streamlined on their website. So they've been a friend of the Splinterlands economy and the Splinterlands game for a very long time. Okay, so this is the details of what their proposal would be, how it would work. We're proposing that if this vote passes, our team would spend 2 weeks reviewing the existing code at no cost. If we believe we can hit the 10-month target, we would then proceed creating an official document with a list of all project requirements. We expect to receive some input from the Splinterlands team during the task to be sure we correctly identify the full project scope. Once this document is finalized and approved, we'll confirm our intention to move forward and start working on the code. We may decide to not take the job after the review, but we will give feedback of the code and still request no funds. We have an incentive and would love to get this project done quickly at a very high standard for the benefit of us and the Splinterlands ecosystem well before 1 year. And I believe them when they say that. I mean, they have a lot riding on Splinterlands as well. So being able to get this up and running for the community, for the game, for the ecosystem is 100% in their incentive. All right, so final audit. As indicated in the other proposal by Splinterlands, it is the SPS DAO that is in charge of developing and deploying the code to operate the SPS token. We totally agree with this. At the same time, it is important to mention that the SPS token is fully intertwined with the Splinterlands game. Both are required and none can operate independently. For this reason, we request a final security review of the code by Peakmonsters, aka Splinterlands, before the release. For this review, we estimate 1 month and a budget of $40,000 to be paid directly to Peakmonsters. So they're asking for $40,000 to go to Splinterlands, the company, from the DAO. So this is not just for them. They're asking for $40,000 and 1 month of review time. And he puts a note here, and I'm going to read this note because Matt actually is in the comments and addresses this, and I'm going to read his comment as well. But we decided to include this section in our proposal as it's honestly quite surprising that there's no mention of something like this in the other proposal. The Splinterlands community deserves an audit by the main game developers before going live with the software developed by a third party, either Peakmonsters or JPTR, that can potentially destroy the ecosystem. All right, so here's a breakdown of costs and payments. Our team can work on this project at a cost of $300,000 USD for 10 to 12 months. On top of those 300,000, there's also the 40K to be paid for the audit, as explained in the previous paragraph. The total cost for the DAO would be 340, providing a $140,000 saving. Because keep in mind, it was 40,000 for JPTR. Over the course of 12 months, which comes out to 480, they're offering a bit of a discount here with 340,000. The payments will be handled based on the following: 300,000 USDC, USDT should be set aside. They're requesting stable coins, but they'll take whatever form is accepted, they'll be flexible on acceptance. Funds will be distributed by the following schedule: 22,000 USDC per month, total of 220,000 over the next 10 months, 40,000 paid to Peakmonsters at the start of the audit, 40,000 paid to Peakmonsters once the software is audited, and then 40,000 paid to Peakmonsters after the software is deployed and validator nodes are active. Let's see, the cost above is purely based on very high level understanding of the project. So, okay, now here are a couple open points and then I'll jump to the comments. So based on the recent DHF proposal, there is a chance the Splinterlands game will move to a different blockchain in the future. If this happens, the impact of the validated node system is unknown. And then also, a new proposal to sunset vouchers will be live soon for official vote. If this is approved, there will probably be an impact on the validated node system software that will require further discussion and adjustments. Now, just a little bit of an update, but that is live and it currently is not passing. But let's go ahead and jump down into the comments here. You can see a lot of folks are very much in favor of this. Again, Peakmonsters has that track record and being a big part of the community. So let's see here, but I want to go to where Matt is because he left a very lengthy comment, and I appreciate Matt jumping on this to talk it through, and I'm sure he'll talk about it more in the town hall tomorrow. So he says, while I am a huge fan of the Peakmonsters team and what they have done and continue to do for the ecosystem, I think it would be a big mistake for the DAO to move the development of the SPS validator system at this point in the process for the following reasons. The current developers at JPTR have been working on the validators for many months now, which has been paid for by Splinterlands, and they're actually quite close to the initial release. The current expectation is that they should be ready to release in the next few months. Now, keep in mind, we're going to hire them for a year per the agreement, but they're able to get it out in the next few months. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing. I'm just saying because we'll still need somebody on to make sure there's no bugs, there's no issues, and whatever further maintenance, right? So we did not want to commit that in the proposal agreement because there's always the possibility that unexpected things come up, and we wanted to make sure that the date put out was one that could be 100% hit no matter what. And keep in mind that date was for March of next year. So they didn't want to put that in, but Matt's kind of putting it out here in the open now. Because the reason I say that, again, is because Matt's trying to push this proposal, right? So obviously the JPTR one. So even though it's not in the proposal, Matt's kind of making it public here, which, again, you can read into that how you will. I'm not trying to push one way or another. I'm just saying, he's putting it out there. They didn't want to, but now he's putting it out there because there is competition. All right, so moving the project to a completely new team at this point would delay things unnecessarily. Number two, the SPS validated software is very similar to the software being used currently in production to operate the Genesis League Goals game, and the developers working on the SPS validators at JPTR were also part of the team that built and released that game in the past. So they have experience launching and running the software in a production environment, and that is important to keep in mind when deciding whether or not to transfer the project to another development team that is new to the software. That's actually a good point. That's actually a fantastic point, probably the biggest point for me. And then number three, one of the biggest and most difficult parts of this project is updating the Splinterlands game to work with the new validator system. Developers currently working on validators worked for Splinterlands on the game before switching over to the validator project, and they are doing the work to update Splinterlands to work with the validators as part of this project. Peakmonsters or any outside developer would not be able to do this, and Splinterlands can't afford to take on that part of the project. So if another developer were to be hired to do the initial release of validators, the DAO would need to separately fund a Splinterlands developer to work on that part. So even though Peakmonsters seems to be offering a cheaper alternative, it does not include all of the work that needs to be done. That's an interesting one. And I'll be honest, when I read through that the first time, I was like, I know people are going to come in and be like, well, obviously Matt's going to lean one way or another. This one is one I'd like for him to give a little bit more clarity on, because if it's just a matter of paying more, right? There's a $140,000 buffer here. So I would just want him to give clarity. Now, my highest priority, going back to what Matt is saying, my highest priority, and I believe it should be the highest priority of all SPS stakeholders, is that this project finally gets done, and I'm strongly against anything that would add further delays and uncertainty. That being said, once the initial release is done and the system is running smoothly, both for the validators and for the Splinterlands game integration with them, then I think it would be extremely beneficial to have as many independent developers working on the project as possible. At that point, the code will be open source, so anyone will be able to contribute, although there should be DAO-appointed groups that lead, or a DAO-appointed group that leads and organizes it, which can certainly be Peakmonsters. So my suggestion is to support the proposal for JPTR to finish the initial version of the SPS chain, get it launched, and make sure Splinterlands is integrated with it properly, then reevaluate and see if it makes sense to have another group take over for ongoing maintenance and additional feature development. Finally, he wants to address that comment. Remember the note that I called out earlier. We decide, so I read that. So what he says in response, numerous Splinterlands developers have been working very closely with developers working on the Validator software to review and double check everything that is being done throughout the project, and will continue to do so going forward. I welcome these types of questions and will update the other proposal to be more clear on these items, but I resent the implication that we were planning to hire some unknown developers and just throw their code out into production without review. Ultimately, however, it is the responsibility of the elected validators, not the Splinterlands company, to choose what code they run and ensure it's audited to their standards. As a reminder, the code will be open source and therefore publicly available for anyone to review and audit before choosing to run it. So I know I read most of this to you guys. I apologize, but I just wanted to cover a lot of the major topics here. Now, that being said, let me be very clear about where I'm currently standing on this. And I reserve the right to be able to change my opinion as we go along with the town hall and, maybe talking with Jarvie and the team and seeing how the down hall goes tomorrow with PJ and, or I think it's on Friday, the down hall with PJ from JPTR and Clay. So that's happening as well. It's been a busy week and it will continue to be busy. But here is where I currently stand. I love the fact that we are getting some competitive pricing here. I love the fact that Peakmonsters has thrown their hat into the ring. That being said, I will still probably vote for the JPTR proposal. And the only reason that I can give you right now is because I think Matt is the only person at this point that has a proper bird's eye view of everything that is going on. And I don't, I never wanted to be like, I always thought it was weird when people were just like blindly following Matt, right? Or anybody, right? So not just Matt, but just again, like anytime there's like a leader of any kind of group or project, whatever, blind faith is always something that like raises up red flags. So I don't want to fall into that category. And this is why I'm trying to say, even though this is great, and I love the fact that we're now getting into a place where the DAO has options, I do believe, and I don't know, maybe this is just a gut feeling for me, I do believe that things are somewhat dire, if I can be a little dramatic. And I agree with Matt in terms of let's not add any further delays. And I'm going to take you back to one important thing that Matt talked about, and that was an exchange listing and how exchange listings would not take us seriously until the SPS chain or validators were working and we had a working SPS chain, right? We've gotten a little bit more information and understanding on how that works now. So just for that alone, I am aligned to keep the people working on it that have been working on it so that we can get it out sooner rather than later. Because, and this is me speculating, right? So let me be very clear. This is me speculating, but I don't think it's just exchanges that won't take us seriously until the SPS chain is up and running. I don't know what other sources of funding Matt is seeking, but I can't imagine something that would kind of disqualify you from getting on a major exchange listing. I believe that would also probably disqualify you from getting some kind of major funding or major support or major anything. So again, this is not Matt saying this. This is me talking about it, right? So I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. I'm just saying when he's talked about the fact that exchange listings were not, or exchanges were not going to take us seriously unless we had the validators live, the way I read that was if exchanges are not going to take us seriously, then really nobody in the industry is going to take us seriously until that happens. And so I'm the one that's extrapolating that, right? Not Matt. So I'm the one extrapolating that and thinking to myself, hey, if we really want this to reach out to the masses and have the best chance of getting into the laps of as many people as possible, then we need the validators out as soon as possible. And as much as I love Peakmonsters, as much as I love Jarvie and the team, and I love the fact that they've thrown their hat into the ring, I believe JPTR has gone too far, right? In a good way, right? Like they've worked on it too far for us to kind of like do a little just like play like little musical chairs, right? Where we just stop for a second and switch drivers. At this point, I agree with Matt that we should just go and get this thing done as soon as possible. Even though it's not in the proposal, I think him putting it out here on the record now, in terms of like us, or in terms of like the project being able to be completed within the next couple of months rather than next year, is crucial, right? And so does that mean, Peakmonsters shouldn't do it. I think, I don't know. I'm in a tough spot right now because here's the thing. As an objective, looking at this objectively, I would love for Peakmonsters to go and actually audit the code and take a look at it, right? Because I would love to see what a second opinion looks like on it. But at this point in time, there's just too much at stake, right? This is what I meant by dire early. I'm really not trying to be dramatic, but for dramatic effect, we'll try it. There's too much at stake because, in my opinion, the timing is starting to be an issue. We always talked about Splinterlands going to miss the bull run. Splinterlands going to miss the bull run. If you follow what's happening in macro right now, if you follow what's happening in markets and with Bitcoin and all this, we could be entering into an interesting time period, right? Just based on the 4-year cycles. And any kind of delay, further delay, let me say, at this point, could be significantly impactful and detrimental. So that is why at this moment, I will probably still be voting for the JPTR proposal. I will not be voting against this one. I'm just going to abstain, but I'll be voting for the JPTR proposal. And, but again, I'm going to see how this thing evolves over the next couple of days and potentially the next week as we get into pre-proposal phase or draft phase into the full proposal phase. But that is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Very curious to hear how people are feeling about this and what side of the fence they are on. Like I said, my side is, I think my side is somewhat nuanced, but I wanted to be able to explain clearly why I like the situation that we're in, but I still need to go I like the fact that we have a bunch of options, but I think it's imperative that we go with where things have been, just for the sake of time and efficiency. And I hope that Peakmonsters will be able to be a part of whatever the future of validator development looks like. So that is all I have for you guys in this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.